The theatre of life presents a crucial interdependency of human, nature and culture. Each is linked to the other in an inextricable relationship that feeds and strengthens one another. Nature provides bounty and humans seek the generosity in order to sustain life and fulfill its mission of creating energy and artistry. Nature also scripts its own narratives through topography, landscape and formation. It conspires with folklore to spin stories from stones and streams. These stories become food and drink to the communities that inhabit spaces where the fruits of nature become central to life. In the search for sustenance and livelihood, human beings have learned how to work the earth by acknowledging the diversity of nature and to respect its manifestations. These manifestations will be invested with faith and belief, prayer and ritual, which are designed to connect the human agency to the profundity of the natural world and demonstrate this vital communion through culture. Earth, which has been blessed by the elements, is turned and made ready to receive seeds and nourishment. In due course of time, these blessings will be scooped up from the dirt and will find their way to homes and huts. Ri-Bhoi District in the state of Meghalaya of northeast India, with its headquarters at Nongrep, was carved out from the erstwhile district of East Khasi Hills on the 4th of June 1992. It is largely inhabited by the subgroup of the Khasi community called the Bhois, who have chosen to make the very fertile river valleys and hills of Bhoi area their home. In certain pockets of the district, the Bhois prefer to call themselves Karau, which perhaps is an attempt to differentiate themselves from other Khasi subgroups. The district also has sizable populations of the Karbi, Tiwa and Marngar communities, and the social ties among these groups is close. Like any other village in Ri-Bhoi District, Pahamshken also bustles with activity. There are chores to be done, jobs to complete, and the Yenkhan Rao, or bachelor's dormitory, is empty. The boys and young men, we are told, have left for the workplaces as these intrepid bees go about their business. The family is the most important unit which defines roles and responsibilities, functions and duties, and this is especially so in villages. The family can also become the center for religious observance, especially when it's connected to agrarian calendar and operation. Paddy and rice, which are central to the lives of these village communities, also have tremendous cultural significance, which are again family-oriented and family-centric. One such religious observance is the Sajer Lukhmi, which is an elaborate ceremony combining worship and obeisance paying, ritualistic performance and thanksgiving, drama and dance. Traditions about the Lukhmi have it that once a hillman and his family went to visit the home of a Kharsari, a man from the plains. The two were very good friends. Now, out in the garden of the plainsman, this Kharsari grew a strange flower. Come morning after a very troubled night, the girl's mother got a bunch of the strange flowers to pacify her daughter. On returning home, the mother swept the flowers up and threw the bunch in a heap out in the backyard. Soon they found that this flower grew into rice stalks. The hillman started cultivating it. The rice also grew and thrived. The man was able to feed his family with this wondrous gift. The family prospered, and many soon came to know about the fantastic gift that could fill bellies and still be stored for future. Sadly, when the others cultivated the rice, nothing grew. It was in vain. It didn't work. And the hillman's wife, who got so much for 1 or 2 months, also lost everything. There was a rat living in the hut as well, and this cunning creature kept some rice up there. The woman was hungry and greatly troubled. Then the rat let fall a little bit of the rice. On seeing this, the woman in anger poked the ceiling with a stick, prodding the rat out of its hiding place. The rat was terrified and said, "Don't kill me. I'm aware of your great deprivation. I undertake to go and fetch it." Thus, traditions about the Lukhmi say that there was a pact between a woman and a man-rat who promised to go to a faraway place to bring back the Lukhmi, or the spirit of Paddy.
Kadang meh hanga, kadang makar hanga. Tang uni terus kuda. Kami mesti hanga, soai hanga, kelak hanga, pun hanga, sebelum hanga, jet hanga, kata hanga, kecil hanga. Te kadang katahi, te kanuan mesti kuih kabel kuih ba, labo hai kunyu terus kuda. De kata keng, baang ba, tip kata kasur, kadur, tip kanyam kerkom.
On reaching the place where the Lukhmi lived, the man-rat, by trickery and by making promises and offers of adoration and worship, persuaded this woman deity to follow him. He chose the boat as vehicle in which he invited Lukhmi to his village. As soon as she agreed, the arum, the yam, pumpkin, the gourd, all of them, crying and wailing, said, "We will follow the eldest sister wherever she goes." It is believed till today that Paddy and cucurbitaceous plants are siblings, and Paddy is found to grow close to them. In keeping with the progression that ceremony must take, an elaborate preparation takes place by the fashioning of a basket using strips of beaten bamboo. Hands which are adept at manipulating raw material in order to create useful things are deployed for this task. This basket is made to carry a pig which will be used for sacrificial rites. In the days still remembered by many an old-timer, people of the Raj used to make their way to a site upon which a very significant part of the Lukhmi culture rests. The trip would take them over streams and rivers, hills and valleys, and often they would have to rest in makeshift huts for food and drink. The landscape is dotted with stones and rocks, which have always been used by the villagers as landmarks. Few among them have cultural significance because of a special scent invested in them. An umauling, which is translated as boat stone, is the most important one directly associated with the Lukhmi.
Kane ka kadega ulum ni ang ulum mauling te hangne halo hajrong jongne ulum mauling ki por mandai man thai hangne umi utau kuba hane te abomi utau kuba hangne te kumta hane po jong karaj nong londo jengi hangne ki wan sim yo sumbai nadu nangne ha por bagiale kataka niam korkom por bakisat ya tak sajar satho hang te po nang ba te kumta nangne ki wan sim yo utau kuba yo sumbai kuba ki ra sate De dala po yung tepet kile akanem kurkum.
This stone near the village of Mauringkang is a huge flat-topped boulder with a long boat-shaped cleft running across its face. The boat, which is the vehicle of Lukhmi, finds a physical representation in the Maulieng, and it is here that elaborate ceremonies are followed to fetch the Lukhmi, who, after successful completion of the rituals, will manifest itself in the myriad of hill spiders found in the undergrowth. The spiritual center of the Raj Khatar Nonglingdo is the site which is called Kanongba. Kanongba literally means capital, and it is in fact the site where ancient settlements are found. Here, one may see an elaborate system of megalithic center comprising of stones erected for various commemorative purposes. This particular spot is also called Kalat Sirni, which becomes an important resting place for celebrants of Lukhmi on their way back to the villages. Kakro Lukhmi, performed as a community ceremony, used to witness the participation of men and women, led by the religious functionaries of the Raj. In the house, while the men are seated outside, the women, who have been busy since morning, start preparing for the ritual. Rice beer, which has been prepared days before the ritual, is served in bamboo tumblers called kijho. This drink will also be used as an item of libation during the ceremony. A portion of the drink is offered to the earth as a token of remembrance to the revered ancestors, who are called Kisarni. The ceremony requires items like a circular basket locally called upudung, a length of white cloth, and leaves called lamet. Now rice is roasted in the open fire outside. It is then pounded in a mortar called uthlong and made ready. Sesame seeds, which are taken as siblings of Paddy, also form part of the offering. This rice is then tied into small bundles of leaves. Leaves of bamboo species are brought forward and the ritual begins. The ceremony is an elaborate affair with a lot of dialogue between the three main celebrants. Talet Makri is the eldest maternal uncle of the clan because, following the matrilineal system, he is expected to officiate as a priest during religious ceremonies. Talet Makri is also one of the very few surviving religious functionaries of the Raj, who still adheres to the indigenous faith whose foundation is the clan system. Angela Makri, wife of Hasing Lingdo, being the matriarch of the house, is referred to as the embodiment of Lukhmi for the family. The practice of sacrificing animals is a common feature in certain Khasi ceremonies, and the Lukhmi is no exception. Consumption of betel nut by all marks the end of the first part of the ceremony. When the priest is satisfied that the preparations are in order, he does an act of obeisance to the house. Items needed for the second part of the ritual are borne on the back of one of the daughters of the house, and the procession goes to a makeshift altar close by. A preliminary ritual takes place in front of the house where incantations are made for a successful delivery of prayers. The priest engages in a dialogue with the Lukhmi. Plantain leaves are arranged in formation keeping with the observance required. One of the key factors for the success of the ritual is the appearance of small spiders called Nyang Ting Krong, which when found in the nearby foliage are kept in specially wrapped plantain leaves. The appearance of these insects symbolizes the manifestation of Lukhmi. The ceremony over, they return to enact a small theatrical performance informing the arrival of the Lukhmi. The Lukhmi cult is so widely diffused in the Bhoi areas that the beliefs, customs and observances vary in text, context and texture. It is also performed at the community level involving almost the entire populace of the village, and in the Marngar Raj, 13 clans take part in the Lukhmi festival.
Ya kan ke sat Lukhmi gede ke bangile sin samsnem hapo karai jungi menta ubnai November suaban ot ni okuba kata gede ke distur ke pala abu da ke long suang suah jungi nadu ke ndai hantai hadu menta menero ngidang ya bat ya kan niam ke ba ni jule sin samsnem tegane ke ba kajing sedang barak khoj gede ke sedang suan napo na yingsat na ke yingsat jungi ya sedang ya kakrum kakre ya kita ke buat jingdon kam baru ni sedang sionang ya kre sionang andala dep kre nang ne usim badu sangat nang le ban le syau itu blai Lukhmi kukimai kabangila bu kerpang hakashi jaka syata syamadan he nang ta andangila awak dep wanang ta namadan he min wanra wan kit hanne ya kata ka blai Lukhmi hanne madan syat Lukhmi.
In the case of the Marngar edition of the Lukhmi festival, the observance is founded on a community base, one which is preceded by a solemn ritual performed by the Lingdo accompanied by a virgin dressed in white. They proceed from the Yengsat or the ceremonial house and go to the paddy field where the Lingdo initiates the preliminaries by engaging in a dialogue with the Lukhmi to beseech her to bless the day with her omniscience presence so that the festival is successfully concluded at the end of the day. In keeping with tradition of the priesthood, his function is to conduct the ceremony by presenting arguments, and for this purpose he is sometimes called the Sutnya, which precisely describes this sacerdotal action. The first fruit of the field, called kham, is taken and placed with the other ritual items as a mark of thanksgiving. The sacred spiders are again sought and upon finding them are wrapped in plantain leaves for consecration at a later time. The Marngar ethnic community is one of the indigenous inhabitant groups in the Ri-Bhoi District whose religious and cultural heritage is intrinsically linked to Paddy. Like the neighbours of the Raj Khatar Nonglingdo, they also follow a highly elaborate Paddy cult revolving around the concept and symbolic manifestation of the Lukhmi deity. It is obvious that the two communities have borrowed elements of worship from one another, and this is true of the other communities as well. Rituals over, the Sutnya and the bearer of the ritualistic implements head to a place where the bearers of Lukhmi converge, awaiting for celebrants of other clans to proceed to the ceremonial ground. Meanwhile, inside the Yengsad, a blast of reedy music from the pipe indicates that those inside are anxious for the celebration to begin. The Yengsad is a 70-year-old structure made exclusively of wood, bamboo and thatch. The floor is daub mud, and except for the lamps throwing little illumination, the house is dark. Iron or any other form of metal is considered taboo in the construction of the Yengsad. Interiors and things inside the Yengsad look like they have remained the same for a long time. This probably is true of the tune which continues to elude the piper as he struggles to coax the appropriate refrain from it. Finally, after being able to blow a reasonably acceptable tune, the celebrants queue up to greet the Yengsad and then proceed outside through the honoured doorway of the ceremonial house. Meanwhile, outside the courtyard, the guard of honour who will accompany the procession break into a celebratory dance. Resplendent in their traditional costumes, the guard of honour make their way in a solemn procession to the appointed place where bearers of the Lukhmi deity, who also have come here from the respective fields and different directions, await. The action here takes on a theatrical mode as baskets covered in dazzling white cotton are kept in a row, symbolizing the sanctity associated with the ceremony. These baskets contain, apart from the first fruit of the fields, powdered rice, betel nut and betel leaves, and the sacred spiders collected during the morning. Four men dressed in white kneel on the ground and engage in a dialogue which is shot through and through with drama. The four are divided into two parties, separated by a length of white cloth. Then the music resumes in response to the supposedly successful verbal engagement of the men in white. The guard of honour then steps into the makeshift arena and dances to the throb of the drums and the lilting of the pipes. They wave their weapons and whoop in chorus, watched by the crowds of men and women, old and young, children and infants. The dancers move in that ancient pattern which finds similarity everywhere, the circular movement. The procession now approaches the Kardop, which literally means gateway, and it is obvious to see why this place has been designated so. Here they rest to refresh themselves with food and drink. This also marks the place where sacrificial offerings will be made. Each part of the festival is integrated to another in a way that a continuity is created, and one is no less important than the other. The enthusiastic participation of the community can be witnessed, and these boys, perched on a tree, have their encounter with tradition just as seriously as their elders on the ground. The Lingdo, who now takes on the persona of the Lukhmi deity, has his face covered in a specially woven garment, and he is led to the threshold of the Yengsad by an elder of the community to find that the doors are barred and hear the inmates of the Yengsad asking them to reveal their identity. The elder declares that they are no enemy and have come to the Yengsad to bear the Lukhmi. He implores the inmates to open the doors and to receive the deity.
Oh, des kurim right kurim. Oh, himarakim himirakim. Tik. Nisti. Arohoj. Oh, des kurim himarakim.
The doors open and they enter the threshold where the deity will reside for the rest of the period until the time comes when the festival is announced again. Back in Pahamshken, Talat Makri the Sutnya, or the priest of the Makri household, resumes his dialogue, which is integral to the Lukhmi belief and practice of this clan-based ceremony. In order to make his discourse complete, he has to necessarily narrate the story of how the Lukhmi deity was brought by the man-rat through his cunning and imagination. The fowl and the goat were sacrificial animals promised to the deity as tokens of reverence for having left her abode in order to come to an alien land and bless it with plenty.
Te menta ngi la dep uni de tau kunci kun thap ong du khut kom lai ba phai ya ta ka sim Lukhmi ka be Lukhmi ka ba kro ba krem ni ka ba li chau le puni la te li kro ite im so i ba la ta ka sim Lukhmi ba Lukhmi ta se ite le na mon kom de menta la ka nya i la krim i la ngu la jam i ala be la thoi te menta de sa kwai so ba ai ka ta ka udu khut ukum lai ka kat kum ga bala chu la chem ga la wan kun kap ga po ga jing ga sem de ta sem ta stang ista ga pha phalut phawai phai ong ge ga ga tin chu i
The ceremony finishes with the priest and his assistant constructing a makeshift altar on the wall of the hut using the jawbones of the animals sacrificed. Hasing Lingdor, head of the household and as the host, recognizes the assistance rendered by friends and relatives in contributing to the success of the ceremony. These men worked in the background, charged with non-religious tasks, but their pitching in also helped the observation of the highly localized, clan-based ceremony. He rewards them with drink while inviting them to join the meal prepared by the women. The meal is a simple affair of rice and curry, of plantain stem, seasoned with bamboo shoot and sesame seeds. The Lukhmi ceremony reveals classic characteristics of a social folk custom because the performances center around family and community observances. It is also interesting to note how forms of oral literature such as myth chanting and narrativization of belief systems form an essential feature without which the meaning and metaphors of the rituals are meaningless. It effectively combines religion with ecology, verbal art with custom, history with theatre. That the Lukhmi is essentially an agricultural festival is true because of its calendrical cycle. But the way in which it is perceived and accepted by clans and communities demonstrates something much more profound. For these people, it sustains worldview and philosophy. It inspires reverence for the soil and surroundings. It celebrates the responsibility of tradition.